Thank you.
Okay, we're good? All right. Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 5th, 2022, and it is 6 p.m., give or take, and we are here this evening for a special city council meeting to discuss goal setting with our new city manager. We're going to begin the meeting by me calling it to order, and then we're going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes, here.
That's a quorum, Madam Mayor.
First thing on our agenda is public comment. If anyone in the public would like to speak, we welcome you at this time. As we had a no on our person in the audience, we will move on to the next item, which is to begin our goal setting and organizational meeting with the city manager. So as everyone knows, Mr. Raker came on board a few weeks ago. He has hit the ground running. I heard great things about you over the weekend when I was at City Hall from a city employee who said you were doing great things here at City Hall, that people are extremely happy to have you here and that you're bringing good energy, and that's wonderful. 2 weeks ago, in your Friday report, you gave us a list of goals and objectives that you have identified for yourself, which is also wonderful. However, as a body, we need to discuss those goals and objectives, not that there's anything wrong with them, but so that we put our stamp on them, because as you know, the city manager role is to serve at the direction of the city council, and I just want to ensure that we are all on the same page and that we are focusing on the things that are most important to everyone all at once. And even though you individually met with all of staff and all of council, it would be nice to have a collective comment, and if nothing changes, nothing changes, and if we just make things a little bit more specific, then that's good for everyone. So I will start by, would you like to speak first, Mr. Raker, or would you like me to let the city council members speak first?
Whatever your pleasure is. What I can do is, whatever your pleasure is, Mayor. I could refresh for the public, just let them know what my indicated goals and priorities were in advance of the budget that I sent to you on, it was March 18th. So that was on March 18th, I sent to all of council my priorities at first blush, having met with all of you and all of the staff, department heads. It was a Just the Facts and awareness campaign in anticipation of the Headley override vote. The budget, of course, the water rate study, the planning commission involvement with the capital improvement plan, which is something new, identify the most immediate road projects, and met with AEW and DBW on this issue, ensure that the parks and associated issues are addressed, such as the baseball diamonds, which the baseball team did play today. And then let's ensure that, okay, and then cost analysis and ROI for consolidation of all department communications to our residents into a quarterly newsletter. Staff warmly received this idea, and this may include collaboration with the school district, which I did speak with the superintendent, Mr. Wilson, on that issue. As you know, they're having, he is going to be retiring, and so this is something that I will eagerly approach the new superintendent once selected. Those are the issues immediately that I would address between now and the approval of the budget, which would be second meeting in May.
Have you had time to, what's your approach on addressing those items with council? How do you plan on sharing information? What are your metrics? I know, and I'm not asking you for each and every one, but that's why I wanted to have this meeting, because those are your goals, and although they're all important goals, I wanted to ensure that council had the opportunity to provide what is critical in your position, which would be the legitimacy of authority, because the authority comes from this body. So curious what steps you would take to do each of those items and which one you're really going to focus on first. I have my own idea. We probably all have our own idea which ones are most important, but what is your goal on that?
Well, the Just the Facts awareness campaign for the Headley override is complete. That information is on all of our social media platforms. There's going to be an actual calculator that we will eventually get on there that residents can plug in their location, their parcel, and they can find out how this would impact them. That is still forthcoming. That would be the last thing that needs to be done on that issue. The budget, on this upcoming agenda, you have 3 proposed dates for budget workshops. The Planning Commission with the capital improvement plan, that is something that is the first time that the Planning Commission has taken on. We will be, I think, at the next Planning Commission making that presentation, so that is underway. And in fact, tomorrow I'll be working with Kelly on that issue to ensure staff is prepared for that. The road projects, we're working on that right now as far as what can we possibly tackle within this first budget cycle. Most immediately with a combination of fund balance, local major roads, and also potentially the ARPA funding. That is ongoing. You guys will be brought up to speed at all of our meetings that are scheduled and on this agenda for your consideration. And then the parks, that's continuously ongoing, and we're meeting success based on availability of product, workload, competing priorities, and the weather. And in regards to the combined newsletter, that's something that is not a big priority and eventually will be taken on in a more robust capacity once the new superintendent is appointed.
So going back to the Just the Facts campaign, as we all know, everyone is not online, everyone is not media savvy. What's the approach? What's the method that is planned to get the information out to the people who are not on Facebook and are not getting your Instagram texts or Twitter texts or whatever? How do we plan on reaching that bulk of the population? Because that's a pretty substantial portion of our population.
I'm going to have to give that some consideration with staff.
Okay, I would say that's critical to ensure that we can get this information out there. I know there's been some conversation already that people are not necessarily wanting to support this initiative, which of course always comes about, but we're going to have to be smart and strategic in ensuring that we get the people out to vote who we need to support this, much like the school district did. They targeted their audience, and that's how they were able to support their initiative last year. So we're going to have to do the same thing, and that's going to require us to stretch a little farther than Facebook and social media, although those are great, but it doesn't get everybody's attention.
Madam Mayor, if I may, to be fair regarding the school board, they had subcommittees and other committees that were tasked with doing that, and they had months to prepare for that. So given the short period of time and the shortage of resources that Mr. Raker may be facing that the school board did not have, I think that's something to be considered.
I'm not comparing apples with apples. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the resources that are available. I'm talking about the importance of the issue. And are you giving him a pass because we don't have funding for that, or because we don't have committees set up? Because that's not wise. There clearly has to be other ways. We don't have to do it exactly as they did, but we definitely have to reach beyond the Facebook crowd.
Yeah, I did not in any way diminish the importance of that. However, it needs to be considered on what the process was that the school board took, and to say that this is similar in that scope. It's an election, it's an important election, but one that there's not a lot of time in between when that was first considered and put in front as an idea in front of the voters and when it actually was put in process and implemented. It takes time. They had flyers that they put out, but they had flyers well in advance prior to the election. In fact, I was working on that with my young son in May and June, and that was 2-3 months prior to the election. We don't have that time frame.
We do not. So knowing the importance of this issue, do you have any ideas that you'd like to share, or you're just going to say that it's probably not going to happen because we aren't the school district?
That's not what I said.
You kind of did.
No, I didn't. I did not say that. I said, again, this is incredibly important, okay?
Okay.
I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Good.
Now, how it's done, we don't have a lot of time. So whatever Mr. Raker.
Exactly my point, exactly why I wanted to bring it up, exactly my point.
But he can't do the same process that the school board did.
My
That was my
point for the
on
school
that.
board was they targeted their audience, that was my point. It was not, let's employ the same tactics they did. I don't even know what tactics they employed.
Do you have a solution in your head that you're thinking?
I have a solution in my head, yes, I do.
Can we hear it? That might help, because I think everybody's just kind of caught right now. They don't have a solution. If you have one that you figured out, let's hear it.
I actually haven't figured anything out, but I do have some ideas, and we could do as simple things such as that, which would be to create some committees. Mr. Raker, please.
To reach your most immediate need to actually have tangible product in someone's hand, we'll have some hard copies available at City Hall. I'll speak with the clerk, I'll speak with Treasury, if there's a way that we can potentially identify people who do not do business online, we'll do our best to get something in the mail to them, possibly. If we can possibly do that and make sure this is not coming across as a campaign, as just as an information only, it's a very fine line to walk.
That, I knew that. That's why I was asking, because you can't do a campaign, but you can disseminate information, and we can't rely on the newspapers because we don't have good news coverage in this area. You know, our news coverage is extremely limited, I should put it that way, and our exposure is limited, but this is a critically important issue for our community at this point, and we have to do everything we can. And lucky you get saddled with the task, but it is critically important. And if this doesn't pass, it will make your job that much harder, and we don't want to make your job that much harder, nor do we want to make any of our responsibilities that much harder. So if it involves setting up committees, let's set up some committees. If it involves getting volunteers, let's figure out how we can get volunteers. If the school district utilized families, if you and your son are experienced, you'd probably sign up to do this. I will sign up to do it. I mean, I can do it as a resident, and as a resident, this is important to me. And we have to figure out what funds we can use. If we have to seek outside funds, let's figure out if there's a way to do that. But this is critically important to our community to send the correct message, because we have people working against us out there that are on those platforms that have broad stretches. And our voice has to be stronger and better, and it has to reach farther. So it's something we can pick up again, but it is something that I think we definitely need to, I personally believe we need to pursue this. Does anyone else on council agree that this is something worth our effort? I'll take that as a no.
Well, of course it is.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it goes without
Yeah,
saying,
well,
of course it is.
I guess the
But
question is the
mean-
means, yeah, no, I agree. I think we're all agreed there. The question is the means and whereby how we do it. I'd like to know, what is the fine line between promoting information and campaigning? Give me an example of what would be on one side of the line and what would be on the other. Can anyone answer that question for me?
I'll give it a stab, but I may have to refer to the city attorney on this. So if you're soliciting an endorsement one way or the other, then you're obviously asking for support one way. I think just basically telling it like it is. Should this not pass, this is what our shortfall is. And the information is up there. I mean, it's roughly a $1.5 million shortfall from what we're used to as far as revenues are concerned. And how will that impact? You will have options. Those options will be discussed and put before you at the first budget meeting that is on this agenda, the proposed date that's on this agenda.
Okay. I guess my concern is, I haven't looked at what you posted. It's a $1.5 million loss, but I believe percentage-wise it was 27%, I think, is our loss in operating revenue, approximately. Is that, because a lot of people, they can't relate to the numbers. $1.5 million is just a big number, or it's a small number if they don't know the whole picture. Is it expressed as a percentage, that if the millage is not
I don't
passed-
believe that it's expressed as a percentage.
Okay, that might be helpful, because pretty much everyone can relate to a percentage. Some people can't relate to the number, honestly, we have no context of what our overall spending is. So if that helps, I'm just throwing that as an idea. And I guess, since we have an attorney here, any other thoughts on what examples of being on one side of the legal line or the other would be very helpful?
I think the city manager did provide a good example. I honestly would prefer to look into the legalities of it a little bit further and provide you guys with a legal opinion, if that would be okay. We can send something to you probably by the end of the week.
Okay. I guess one more question I had, as far as, again, we can't campaign, but we can get information out, but getting information out implies some spending, other than posting up on social media, implies some spending of resources. How can that be handled if Mr. Anderson and Mr. Shepherd have our families out putting flyers in doors or whatever?
Yeah. We couldn't engage, just COVID, right?
Right, how does that work? I mean, flyers have to get printed, there's a cost entailed with that. How could that money be spent to make the flyers? You see where I'm going?
Are you asking me that question?
I am. I'm actually asking anybody who can answer. It's true.
I guess I'm not sure. We're saying, where's the money coming from?
Where could the money come from? Obviously, the city can't spend money putting together promotional literature for,
Educational literature.
I was gonna say, if
We're
if
looking for
it's
educational
educating
literature.
voter, yeah, I think I'll provide that in our legal opinion as
Okay.
well.
because it may just be as simple as making a flyer, a mailer, or a door hanger that kind of represents, Joe, what you've put together already on the media.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any examples of a go, no-go situation where this is verboten and this one's okay to move forward with? Type of example of type of literature that may be able to be presented?
No, we don't have anything like that right now. We actually, our Just the Facts literature was reviewed by the city attorney to ensure that, we weren't violating any rules.
I was just curious if there's any, examples of other communities that, okay, this was not something that they should have done, but it did it anyway. But these are also examples of literature that went out that was acceptable. Again, for the school board, I'm not sure, I don't recall the length of the information that was there. I don't have an example of it right at hand. I'm sure somebody may still have a copy of it, whether or not that falls under the same principles and guidelines that we're under.
Yeah, I can certainly provide some examples.
Remember, the school board did a lot of the work before they made a proposal.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, but they
That's
didn't
legal.
distribute information until just before an election. So we're still within time for that. The season is changing, so we have that in our favor. And no matter what the impediment is, we can't just post online and think that's going to do enough. We can't rest on that. It's not going to work. I mean, it could work, but we can't rest on that. We have to go above and beyond. Our residents deserve the information. We deserve to get the information out there so that we have a success on actually passing this for all of us, right? Everyone's affected by this. So education is key, whatever the method is that we can utilize to get the education out there, we need to do it. And if we have to get creative and get people to hand stuff out 2 weeks before, we've all knocked on doors. We have a lot of great residents out there who do not want to see this thing fail. We can get some foot soldiers. I'm pretty confident that we could come up with them. But we need to ensure that whatever we're doing from the city standpoint is within the appropriate realm, right? That doesn't get us any trouble.
Who can and can't present the information or go door to door? Is there a limit? And the type of person, their relationship with the city?
I will provide that in my
Okay,
opinion as well.
perfect. Perfect.
Okay, so I would like to go to the dates for the meetings, for the budget meetings, which I guess we're going to talk about later. I guess we can talk about, well, I'll talk about it because it's on this list. I appreciate that you set up 3 meeting dates. However, I would appreciate in the future if you could poll us for times and dates because I can't make all of those dates. I have work commitments and those conflict for 2 meeting dates, so we're going to need to look at those again. And I don't know if anyone else does, but I know that makes more work for you. I know it's hard to coordinate everybody's schedule, but it would be helpful if you could do that in the future, please.
Well, I mean, it was to get the ball rolling,
Oh,
and
I
we'll
get
have the
that.
discussion here, and you guys can make the amendment to the suggestions, and we'll have it hopefully done anyway tonight.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions about any things on his list or any further information that you would like at this? Oh, I do. How about the, talking about AEW and DPW regarding the road issue? We've paid for a couple of studies in recent years, and I do understand the roads have degraded beyond that point. I would hope that we're not going to enter into a contract to do another study that's in excess of $20,000 for something that we already kind of have figured out. So I'm curious what your plan is for that moving forward.
Well, most immediately, the first two capital improvement projects I'd like to be able to get going and done this year, hopefully. We don't have much runway until the building season starts and ends as far as getting the budget done, getting it included in the budget, explaining it to council, getting it out for bid. There's a lot of sequential things that have to go into play there, and also an understanding of where that money is going to be coming from. We have a significant fund balance, we have local roads, major roads, and you have some ARPA money that is there, that's available. We also have two opportunities for federal grants that we will be putting forward the third year's capital improvement project, because we're trying to knock out the first 2 years' capital and projects in this coming year. So then next year, we would move up the third year's project to the second year and hopefully create some momentum. If you recall in my presentation to council, I talked about the possibility of a special millage for infrastructure. And so hopefully with building some momentum on getting these projects going, will create voter confidence and support of something like that in the future.
Okay, how do you plan on, I've heard, and I get lots of email that says there are a lot of opportunities out there for infrastructure funds for municipalities. Are you getting information? Is the city following up on those things? I know I got something from one of the senators a month or so ago, and I sent it to Kelly, and I'm assuming that it did go out, right? But we have to take, as you know, we have to take advantage of every opportunity that's out there, and I'm just curious what you're seeing, because I was speaking with someone today that serves on one of our boards and commissions, and he says he's hearing from county, state, all in a variety of places that there are dollars out there for the asking, and that always sounds great, and it's usually not that simple, but I want to make sure we have someone that's actively seeking those things out right now, too.
We are pursuing those two opportunities with the congressmen, the two congressmen that represent Clawson, Congress members that represent Clawson, and anything else that has come my way thus far. So I do need to get, I'm on day 11 on the job, and am I receiving all the emails from the professional organizations? I'm not affiliated with everyone right now just yet, but these things are coming through. They're getting to me. AEW, our engineers, they know what our needs are, and they're out there. They always have their ear to the ground as far as opportunities are concerned. So I don't get the impression that we're missing out on any opportunities at this time.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything they would like to add to this list?
I think this is pretty good.
Surprise. How about you?
I think you did a great job on putting together goals so quickly on what you think the hot points are.
Yeah, I don't see any need to add. I will say, though, that I think we may need to, this may be more appropriate, say, in July, when we know where we are with the Headley override and where we are with the overall budget. So I would like to, really focus on sometime in the future to have this. But no, I will not, and I agree with what's on the list as it is.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson?
I agree with, the list is pretty complete for now.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I have just a couple things. They're small, but I'd like them added to. As you know, I requested this item be added to the agenda this past week, and I received an email that stated that you would not add it to the agenda, that if I wanted it on the agenda, that I could bring it to the meeting, and should I get the appropriate support, I could address it then. I would like to know from you, I've gone through all of our literature. the rules and the handbooks and all of those things, and thinking back to past practice, I realize you're new and you have your own procedures and policies and the way that you would like for council to interact with you. So I think it would be extremely beneficial if you could share with council how you expect us to interact with you, what level of responsibility you actually will allot council, and what level of participation you want from council. So the handbook here states 4 days that we should provide information within 4 days to the city manager for inclusion into an agenda, which that's fine. Past practice is not 4 days. I will say that the gentleman sitting next to you and his assistant sent me probably every time there was an agenda, would you like to approve this agenda? Would you like to add anything to the agenda? Which was great, and I generally said, I don't need to approve the agenda as long as the items that we've entrusted you with to move on for the city are taken care of. Council makes all policy decisions, including review, revision, and final approval of most of the things that govern the city. And I just want to be clear that we have some authority, and that your job is to formulate policy by which the municipality is run. The manager and staff execute the policy. They do not determine the policy, and these are not my words. These are the words of the manual that is given to each of us and was drafted by our attorney. So I want to ensure that there's not an issue moving forward with collaboration, because I personally am never going to try and make work for you because you have enough to do. I'm not going to try and make work for me because I have a full-time job that's more than a full-time job. And I'm not going to look over my shoulder for you or anyone else, but I am going to hope that there's going to be some kind of a working collaboration and a level of respect and trust, and that I can expect that something as simple would not be fought from day one. And if you would have said to me, sorry, it's outside of the 4 days as stated in your book, I'd have said, good, no problem. But I just would I think your response, probably well-intended, did not sit well with me because it didn't seem cooperative. So I would like to know from you, I'm not asking for it right now, but I would like it probably at our next meeting, how you believe our responsibilities and our roles are to work together. And if council is allowed to add items to the agenda, Mr. Raker, are we not?
You are absolutely allowed to amend the agenda pursuant to getting a second and then discussion and voting on it.
Mr. Raker, are we allowed to place items on the agenda?
As individuals, according to the charter, no.
As individuals, could you show me where it states that in the charter, please?
I don't have the charter with me, but everyone received the city attorney's opinion.
I did receive that, and I did read it, and as usual, I would like to say thank you for allowing our city attorney to use his 7.5 hours per week that he allots the city of Clawson to write something that, as usual, didn't really address the question. But that's fine. If we want to leave it at that, you can have your opinion. So are you stating that it takes more than one person to add something to the agenda? And if that's the case, how would you like us to present items to you in a collaborative effort to satisfy your need for more than one person to put something on the agenda that is technically a city council agenda, as this is a city council meeting?
Do you want my answer now, or do you want it at the next meeting?
I mean, if you're prepared for an answer now, I'll take it. If you would like to bring it to your next meeting, I will take that as well.
Just off the cuff, I think it would be well served by the council, the administration, and the citizens if council members during a meeting, if they have an issue, they want something added to the agenda for a future agenda, that the motion is made, it's seconded, it's discussed and voted on. That way I have absolute clear direction from the council as a body and not from one individual.
So when things come up within the 2-week period between meetings, or if something transpires and there is a necessity, take this for example. I discussed this when we brought you on, that I wanted to have this type of a meeting. I do not feel that it would be wise to wait until after the budgets, to wait till June or July, to have a goal-setting workshop with someone who's new to an organization. I applaud you for your efforts to take time to meet with everyone and to come up with a concise list of goals, which are very aptly put for what our immediate needs are. I applaud you for that. But as stated here, it is not your decision. You do not determine the policy of this council. The council determines the policy. So all we really needed to do is come together and say, council also applauds you, and we thank you for that. And yes, we support these initiatives. Let's move forward with them.
We are.
We are today, and why are we today? We are today not because We are. You're right. We
We were
are.
moving up forward with them since March 14th when I took over.
no, we weren't moving forward with them until we basically gave you a blessing on them. Technically a blessing
I
on
would
them.
disagree with you respectfully on that one, Mayor.
Again, the city manager does not determine policy. They carry out policy as defined by the city council. So, just stating that.
It appears we have a difference of opinion as far as when council is going to give direction to the city manager. The question is, do they do it as a body or as a series of individuals? I imagine the argument can be made both ways. I did read Rennis's letter, and I can tell he's trying to be as conciliatory as possible to all parties. I know he lays out in section 2.35 that the city manager is responsible for bringing the agenda together. And of course, we got the 4-day deadline, which is understandable. He needs time to be able to get things together. The question is, and then Rennis in his, the city attorney, I should say, the power and authority of the mayor specifically enumerated in Charter Section 405. Any connection to the agenda insofar as members of council are concerned is conspicuously missing. However, that is not the end of the inquiry. So I found this interesting is he was almost trying to say, well, it doesn't specifically say the council and the mayor can set the agenda. But then he does reference the 2.34, where it talks about the special meetings. And presumably a special meeting would be an agenda set by the council. And for that, I presume it would begin with individuals. So in all that, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a legal expert, I don't tend to make a ruling, and I believe our current attorney probably would want some time to render an opinion of her own. But I think, I kind of like how Rennis put it in the last paragraph. He said that in the city of Clawson, practical considerations and best practices have always been seen as a collaborative effort among members of the administration under the leadership of the city manager and the mayor and council concerning the agenda council and its legislative authority and specific mandates of the charter. So I like the way he said it. It should be a collaborative effort between the council and the city manager. Again, you've got a big job to do. You don't need us all chirping in your ear with various things we want you to do. However, it might be best in the spirit of collaboration that you do allow agenda items to be added from individual members of council, just in the interests of perhaps urgency, or the fact that it may not always be clear if it's an agenda item that requires some important decision-making. The council may not be able to give you a solid resolution and say, okay, put that on the agenda. Agenda items are, after all, mostly discussion items. So I think it might be beneficial to maybe take individual council members' input as far as putting agenda item on. I understand there are risks with that, because again, you don't need a bunch of council members all chirping in your ear, giving you direction. But I think as far as just putting items on agenda, I would hope it would be non-controversial enough that it could be done. That's kind of my thought in all this, for what it's worth. I know I've worked in the auto industry for a long time. I've been to literally thousands of meetings. And the agenda never seemed to be an argument. It's just, here's the list, let's go. You, of course, would have a manager, chief engineer, kind of set up the agenda, and every engineer in the room, every program manager could say, I think we can talk about that and that and that. No problem, we just add it. Naturally, that's a private industry. Things are a little more informal there. But we're a pretty small council here. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe we could get to the point to where individual council members could request things to be added to the agenda.
If you
That's just
don't-
my thoughts.
Yeah, if you're not accepting council input for agenda items, where are these agenda items coming from? Are they just items that you personally feel are important? I mean, isn't the whole idea of the agenda items that are important to this body, along with the general everyday business of the community? That's
Most-
the whole idea of the city council meeting and thus a city council agenda. And the reference from Runnis didn't state that you get to put all the items on the agenda. It states that you prepare the agenda. And of course you prepare the agenda. You're the administrator. You have the administrative functions. We don't have a secretary. Well, we do. Sorry, because you are our secretary, technically. We're not active in that manner. So it stands to reason that that is the process. We weren't questioning the process. We were questioning the authority, the legitimacy of authority to do anything when it comes to these meetings and it comes to that agenda.
I think that the city attorney's opinion is pretty clear,
Could-
that the city attorney, that you can get things on the agenda as a body. You act as a body, not as individuals.
Fine, so
That's the-
you're stating to me, let's not even do that. We can do this every single time because clearly I have the authority to call a special meeting. So if we want to do the tit for tat thing, I mean, there are ways around it because there are ways around it. The reason to get something on an agenda is so that the public understands what's going to be discussed, whether it's something that is extremely important or something just people want to bring out and have a conversation about. Councilmember Sampson is perfect for saying, we can discuss it. I don't have a problem discussing something. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. Doesn't mean I have to let it go through. That's where we should be with this. Not to fill our agendas with fluff and just, random things, but who determines the random is not your responsibility to determine the random. And I say that with ultimate respect.
And again, Mayor, I will say the same thing with the ultimate respect too. I diplomatically disagree with you.
Well, show me in Rennis's opinion, our city attorney's opinion, where it states that you have the authority to define the items on our agenda, because it's lacking.
I think this
I
conversation.
think that's not right, though.
Well,
This
I'm-
thing right
I'm
here
gonna-
says
if
you
I can
don't get
finish
to
my
think.
statement, I think this conversation would be best served for the public and for this body if it was continued when the city attorney, I'm sorry, I cannot say his name. How do you say it? Nujai, when Mr. Nujai is here.
Okay.
I think that's fine. If you want to continue when Rennis is here, that's fair enough. I think we both read his letter, and maybe we have different interpretations, so we'll have him interpret his own letter for us.
Okay, then with that, I would like to ask I'd ask that you come back to this body and provide us with a definition. I would really like basically to know what you feel the importance of this body is, because in our conversation, I felt that there wasn't one. I would like to know what you think the role of the council is in the proceedings of this meeting, in this community as in general, and how that would, again, work with you. And then I would also like to go back to the, I've requested this in the past, you just came aboard, but I'm not willing to wait any longer. We need to have an organizational meeting, an introductory meeting for this council with each department head, touring each facility, having conversations with each of the department heads, and getting an understanding of the day-to-day operations of the community.
What was your first part?
Pardon me?
What was the first part? You want him to write a paper on what?
I didn't ask him to write a paper. I asked for a definition of his understanding of the roles of council and his role and how we work together, and what part council has in what he does.
Madam Mayor, isn't
Homework
that
assignment.
defined in the charter?
It is, and I could read it if everyone wants me to. I have it all highlighted and tagged and everything, but I have a feeling it will go nowhere, so I won't waste my time doing it. I would be much more happy if someone else could regurgitate it to me. That would be great. So we'll go about with that, and then I will give you the guidelines that I have for this meeting to take place.
Mayor, if I may inject, to make sure that your request gets legs, I ask that you put it in the form of a motion and that the council gives me direction on it.
Mr. Raker, are you saying you won't do it because I suggested it?
Not at all, ma'am. It's taking time and resources from other competing priorities, and in order for me to do that, I'll take the justification from the direction of council, not just one request from one person.
Okay, fair, thank you. So would I make a motion that Mr. Raker provide an example, an understanding to this body of what the roles and responsibilities are of council and also of the city manager pertaining to the charter and how we should work together. I would also like him to provide to us a list of procedures, which we have procedures. I don't know if you've had time to look at them. Council's already established procedures. If you'd like to copy those and put your name on it, that would be great. I'd like to know the procedures you would like council to follow to successfully work with you. And I would also like to see an updated organizational chart. I was going to bring one here today, but all of the ones I found were extremely old, but I can tell you how they start. They start with citizens, city council, city manager, department heads, in that order. And I'm assuming if we redo the city charter or city organizational chart that it will remain the same. So I will make that motion. Would anyone please support it?
I'll support.
Roll call or any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson,
No.
Councilmember Shepherd.
No.
Guys,
Motion
so
passed.
surprise me every single time. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't have to pass, and you can be that guy. It's okay. We'll continue to work, and I will do my due diligence, and I will highlight all these things, and I will do the educational piece to you instead. That's fine. Okay, so does anyone else have anything else this evening? Thank you all for sharing and playing nicely.
Motion to adjourn?
Sure, let's adjourn.
Second.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.